welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FBR's, but hey, it's something. Now, this episode is, another one of those takedown episodes where I ramble about some random guy that no one cares about. But before that, we gotta get to important things first. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First, I'm going to be talking about a North Carolina candidate. This is going to be something we don't do a lot. Talk about North Carolina. NC congressional candidate called Hitler's house a bucket list trip. Madison Cawthorn, a political upstart with President Trump's support, faces questions about a trip to Nazi Eagle's Nest and biographical inconsistencies. A Republican candidate for a Western NC congressional district is facing scrutiny this week for a 2017 photo he took of himself smiling in front of Hitler's former vacation home. Madison Cawthorn, 25, of Hendersonville, is pitted against Democrat Mo Davis of Asheville, 62, a lawyer and retired Air Force colonel who prosecuted some Guantanamo prisoners in the November election. If voters in the Western North Carolina district decide on Cawthorn, he would be the youngest person elected to Congress. Basically, Cawthorn posted a picture on Instagram saying, "The vacation house of the Führer, seeing Eagle's Nest has been on my bucket list for a while. It did not disappoint." Now, to an extent, this isn't exactly big surprising, because, not gonna lie, there are a lot of people who probably, want to go to a Nazi place like Auschwitz or, Hitler's vacation home as a bucket list thing. Much like there's some people who would say, hey, I want to go see, Stalin's shit house. I don't know. But I guess the issue is, of course, Madison literally referred to him as the Führer. He uses Hitler's title. Why? Why do you need to use the title? You need to use what? That's not the only thing Madison Cawthorn did. Apparently, he's also been accused of trying to forcibly kiss someone. There's a girl on Instagram, I'm probably gonna leave the link to it in the description, that, Madison Cawthorn, went on a date with her, and then she was like, "Hey, buddy, we have fun." And then he tries to kiss her, then she's like, "No thanks." And then he tries to do it again, she's like, "No, go away, get out of here." And he was trying to say intimate stuff like, "Hey, have you had sex before?" Like that kind of stuff. Especially considering the fact that Madison has tried to portray himself as this, "Oh, I'm this super Christian type guy," and during the primary he tried to openly be like, "I am not Trump, I'm fighting against Trump's picked candidate." Now he's the quintessential Trump face type person. So yeah, it looks like this race is bad. I mean, you got a person who tried to force himself on a girl, a guy who worked for Guantanamo Bay, a guy who was arrested for stalking, and a girl who tried to get me suspended from Twitter. And C11, stinks to be you. Okay, so the next story is another story from Mexico. Because Mexico's politics are a bit more lit, TBH. Mexican president wants graft testimony from predecessors Calderon and Peña Nieto. Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said on Wednesday the two presidents who preceded him should testify about corruption after a complaint by a former head of state oil firm Petróleos Mexicanos known as Pemex. López Obrador's position that former presidents Enrique Peña Nieto and his predecessor Felipe Calderón should speak to prosecutors raises the stakes in his drive to root out corruption he says plagued previous governments. Ex-Presidents Calderón, ex-President Peña Nieto, the lawmakers who are mentioned, the senators, all of those mentioned have to testify, López Obrador said in his daily morning news conference. He stressed that he did not assume their guilt. His comments come a day after former Pemex chief Emilio Lozoya filed a complaint saying Peña Nieto and his finance minister Luis Videgaray had instructed him to direct bribes to Peña Nieto's 2012 election to buy votes in Congress. The testimony is related to a plea deal from which Lozoya returned to Mexico from Spain to face corruption charges without being held in pre-trial detention. So yeah, AMLO is trying to root out corruption in the previous administrations, which is what he said he was going to do during the presidential election, which is a good thing. And this article doesn't try to insinuate it's a bad thing, but there are some people who do try to insinuate it as bad, like, oh, why is he targeting the past presidents? Why can't he just let it go? But, you know, this actually comes a little bit, I think it came like a little bit after there was this tweet from Felipe Calderon, where he posted this political cartoon mocking AMLO and saying, put this cartoon on a wall in the National Palace, in Spanish, and I responded to him with a tweet saying, empezaste la guerra contra las drogas en México y estuviste borracho todo el puto tiempo. Vete a la mierda. Which translates to, you started the war on drugs in Mexico and you were drunk all of the fucking time. Fuck off. Like, seriously, AMLO is, again, shining hope for Mexico. You know, I don't see the issue. Hashtag hands off Mexico. We gotta stop this regime change efforts from Mexico. Now, heading back to the USA, we have this story. Kennedy allies sweat as Massachusetts Senate rate tightens. Joe Kennedy was once thought to be such a lock to defeat Senator Ed Markey that there was widespread speculation in messages that Markey just retired to avoid a humbling end. But Markey is piling up endorsements and closing in on the young congressman in the polls by running a policy-heavy campaign that seems tailored for the moment. There's growing sentiment that Kennedy underestimated the backlash he'd face for challenging the veteran incumbent, who has been beloved amongst progressives for his work on the Green New Deal. What Markey had done in the past was flex his policy muscles. Now he's doing that, and I think Kennedy is realizing policy runs deep in Massachusetts. Personality and persona are important too, but in Massachusetts, policy runs very deep. Markey's once lackluster approval rating and name ID help explain why lesser-known Democrats Shannon Liss Reeder and Steve Prenderton launched primary challenges to the low-key incumbent, but dropped out when Kennedy entered the fray. Here's the thing. The left has revived Ed Markey. Like, Markey, everyone thought Markey was done. There are a lot of people who were, like, super supportive of Kennedy. Like, even people who were supposedly on the left. They're, like, saying, hey, Joe Kennedy needs to enter the fray because they love Joe Kennedy so much. But the left, like the real left, like AOC and Ro Khanna, they have, we've revived his campaign, like Sunrise. We've revived his campaign. Everyone thought his campaign was over. Finito. Finished. Done. Like, here are the polls, like, in the elections. This is before Kennedy announced. 42-25 Kennedy, 35-26 Kennedy, 42-28 Kennedy. Then right after he announced, the polls went like this. 35-34 Kennedy, 43-40 Markey, 42-36 Kennedy, 44-42 Kennedy, 58-42 Kennedy. Now, 44-41 Markey and 51-36 Markey. And apparently they were given, like, word thingies to, like, spell out, like, what's the most common word they use to describe Markey and Kennedy. For, like, Markey, the biggest one is, like, old, and one person says useless, unknown, but then there was also, like, progressive, fighter, experienced. But for Kennedy, the biggest word was, like, the biggest word was privileged, or, entitled. I think it was, like, entitled, privileged. Kennedy, his name was literally the most they knew about him. Like, seriously, I'm not saying it's a done deal yet, but we gotta keep pushing. We gotta keep Markey. Markey's good. And Markey, he recently ran an ad that was pretty lit. Political callbacks. He used the Kennedy quote.
Ask not what your country can do for you, Ask what you can do for your country.
We asked what we could do for our country. We went out. We did it. With all due respect, it's time to start asking what your country can do for you.
Political callbacks are lit AF. Like, I really like political callbacks. Like, during, the New York gubernatorial race, long ago, between Mario Cuomo and Ed Koch, there were speculations that Ed Koch was gay, so Cuomo ran ads saying, "Vote for Cuomo, not the homo." Then in response, Cynthia Nixon, in the 2018 election, had, like, buttons and such saying, "Vote for the homo, not Cuomo." Pretty lit. Pretty cool. And, Markey doing this for Kennedy, especially considering Kennedy has just been trying to use, like, literally all of this as, like, a political callback to his, family. It makes sense that, he uses it. And he uses it in a really good way. Way revived Markey's campaign. Everyone thought Markey was done deal, bin finito. Now, we've given him a second life. It's time to start using it. So anyways, the next story is coming from also Massachusetts, but in a not so good way. One where the incumbent is bad. Now you see, there was accusations that Alex Morse was, Alex Morse is a candidate running against Richard Neal. There was an accusation by, like, the state college Democrats that he was sleeping with students at a university that he was a lecturer at. Okay, that seems a little iffy, but they were of age, so that's definitely one thing that everybody's like, okay, that issue's done. But there's also, like, the idea of, like, power dynamics and all that. Well, turns out the college Democrats that came forward to talk about this, they were funded, and they were given, like, pointers and such by Richard Neal. Like, well, not Richard Neal himself, but, like, people affiliated with Richard Neal's campaign, one of which includes James Roosevelt, the, like, grandson of FDR, who was a huge Neal backer. See, that's the thing. Everyone's, like, thinking, like, oh, we need to use it's the same thing. It's like why everybody says, like, the Me Too movement is done. The Me Too movement is being used to, like, hurt, lefties, but when it's being used for the right reasons, calling out, like, a big establishment type person, it's bad. We can't focus on Joe Biden, who literally raped people, but we gotta use this thing to get rid of Alex Morse, because Alex Morse might win. And it turns out this may have backfired, because now a lot of progressives, that Morse was just one of many, but now that people are actually like, oh wait, Neal was so scared that he actually sent his goons to go try and diminish Morse? Let's big donate to him. And now, he's gotten big fundraising hauls, and now I'm backing him. Like, again, to me, Morse was just one of many. Now, I'm down. I'm with Morse now. Morse, let's win with Morse. Let's flip another seat. Hooray. Now, the biggest story of the day, obviously. Joe Biden has officially declared who his running mate will be. It is Kamala Harris. Now, here's the thing. Many people have been trying to spin this in different ways. Like, oh, this is the bullet that will kill Biden's campaign. Or, this is the gleaming hope that Biden needs. No, it doesn't do either. It doesn't really kill his campaign. It doesn't really, bring his campaign up. Because, it doesn't bring in more people into his coalition. Doesn't push people out of his coalition. I mean, it kind of does. But those people were either already out, or were not going to be, like, for example, technically, this should have pushed me out of the coalition, but I wasn't even in the coalition. They didn't invite me. Biden had months to try and win me over. He pretty much got my nomination in April. The second Bernie dropped out, he should have been trying to get me into his coalition. But here's the thing, he doesn't want me in his coalition because he thinks that I will be voting for him regardless. I'm not going to be voting for Joe Biden. I'm not going to be voting for Donald Trump. I'm going to be voting for Howie Hopkins. This is 100% a done deal. It was in April and May, those 2 months should have been the done deal months where he would have been trying to get me into his coalition. But no, it's freaking August now. That time has passed. He hasn't won me over yet. He's not going to win me over yet. It's 80 days. It's 80-something days until the presidency, till the election. He hasn't won me over yet. So he lost every single chance. Literally. On April, he could have said, look, guys, I know we've had some disagreements, but I'm 100% going to fight for the Green New Deal. I'm 100% going to fight for Medicare for all. Pick one of those two. And this was technically the last possible thing where I was like, okay, maybe you'll win me over if you, picked progressive. Heck, if you picked Karen Bass, I might have been But no, again, he chooses not. He chooses to bye-bye me. Benfinito. I'm not in his coalition. I'm not going to move for Joe Biden. I've been getting someone in my DMs keep trying to get me into voting for Joe Biden, but here's the thing. They again fell for the same neoliberal talking points. The Green Party is, Putin puppet. Oh, you're falling for Republican talking points by criticizing Democrats. What? Why can't you... Nobody ever even thinks for the possibility that they could be okay, I respect your decision to vote for that person. But no, I don't care who you vote for. You want to vote for Joe? Go ahead. You want to vote for Howie? Go ahead. I don't care. You vote for whoever you want to do. I'm not going to hold your hand. I can criticize your choice for voting. You can criticize my choice. But the thing is, I can refute your criticisms because a lot of your criticisms are BS. Putin puppet. I can refute that because that's just not true. I can refute your stupid spoiler BS because that's not true either. My vote would never go to Joe Biden unless they met certain circumstances, and he's not met any of them. But at the end of the day, Kamala Harris, she doesn't help and she doesn't hurt his campaign. Literally, it affects nothing. If Biden was already on his way to lose, he was already going to lose regardless if he picked Kamala or not. If he was on his way to winning, Kamala wouldn't have changed that either. Okay, so anyways, now on to the smaller presidential candidate of the day. Another black woman, Jade Simmons. She's an author and pianist who will be on the ballot in Oklahoma. I don't know if she made it on the ballot in any more states, but here's just some of her basic platform. It's the restoration plan. Honor God. More humane and powerfully reductive economy. Reproductive responsibility. We aim to drop the abortion rate while protecting the empowerment of the rights of women. Breakthrough for Black Americans. A new normal for healthcare. Let me see. Does she support single payer? I don't think so. Women's empowerment and a new era in education and an LGBT plus promise. She just has basic stuff like slightly left-ish, liberal type. I don't really know. Hollywood liberal type, but whatever. Now let's move on to the main topic of this day. Destiny. Stephen Kenneth Bonnell II. He's an American Twitch streamer and YouTube personality. He was apparently the one of first people to commit to full-time streaming and was a pioneer for the emerging industry. Okay. He's already a loser. Then again, I'm one to talk. No, he was just, your average, you online gamer. He'd play, StarCraft 2. But then, something happened. One day, he just decided that he would start debating people online. And political debates. Ooh. One of his most high-profile debates was when he debated JonTron, a guy who I'm a fan of, who was saying some not so cool things. But that debate actually immediately made me not like Destiny. Because, you know, I was a JonTron fan at the time, and I didn't really even know the extent of what he was saying. I was just like, no, don't hurt my boy JonTron. JonTron is my favorite man. He's cool, but now I'm like, definitely probably should call him out on that. That's not so cool. Like, let me play a clip of like the debate just to get an idea of like what Destiny's debate style is and like how he was debating JonTron.
What is it that's so offensive about white people saying they would like to preserve their demographic majority?
Because
like,
I don't understand why is the skin color so important, and why would you drag the country down holding on to it? Like, there have been
I didn't start this shit now, did I?
Well, there have been contributions by other people to our country that are non-white. Why wouldn't we want to continue to foster this kind of behavior?
I think human beings are at the core tribal, and they tend to want to stick to their own. I think it's completely natural, completely normal. And so
you've already proven that statement wrong in what you're saying, because you think you're a white person and you're half Iranian and what did you say, Hungarian?
Yeah, Hungarian. I'm half
that wouldn't have been considered a white person 100 years ago. 100 years ago, Irish wasn't considered a white person.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about mass immigration.
That debate was kind of seen as, that debate kind of made it so that Destiny went up in the, you know, online lefty community. Everybody was like, ooh, cool, this guy, he debated, like, JonTron. And that also led him to debate more people, you know, like, you know, Lauren Southern, Nick Fuentes, Sargon of Akkad. And Destiny was even attributed to being one of these lefties that pulled someone out of the alt-right. You know, that he had to, that was pretty much his thing. And he calls himself a social democrat. You know, people, like, he seemed to get a decent amount of love. But here was where the draws started to happen. Destiny, he kind of started painting himself in a little bit of a different light. Like, for starters, he would start debating lefties, which, I mean, it's fine, you know. Some of the lefties that he does debate are definitely, like, not cool. Like Caleb Maupin, who, like, literally used a guy who was a literal pedophile to try and, like, say, like, look, you see, revolutionary communists, they love gay people, too. We're not class reductionists. It's like, buddy, don't use Harry Hay as an example of that. That guy was literally a part of NAMBLA. And when gay people were turning away pedophiles from trying to enter the LGBT community, he was like, no, we gotta let them in. But here's the thing. Destiny also kind of, enters into that bit of that liberal bubble. Like, he's not necessarily a social democrat. I would even argue I don't even know if he's entirely a social democrat. He probably is, to a degree, but look at me, different variety, different strokes. Maybe he'd just be like a social liberal type, because like with social democrats, there's always like this divide of like, you know, what kind of social democrat are you? Do you come from a capitalist perspective? Do you come from a socialist perspective? Do you adhere to Bernstein? Or are you doing this basically purely out of like the practicality sense? Like no ideology in it whatsoever, just practicality? Maybe he comes from the super practicality sense, which, I mean, yeah, it has its draws and it has its pros and cons, but, you know, he doesn't necessarily like the left, and I don't even think he considers himself a part of the left. Like, maybe he's like, oh, I lean left or something like that. Like, for example, he's really laid in on this whole Bolivia thing. He was like, it's not a coup. Yes, it is. It 100% is a coup. Maybe he's changed his mind, but all the videos that he does on it were, like, super, like, I hate it. It's bad. I don't like it. There is no coup. There was no big bad thing. Another thing is he defends, like, you know, Democratic Party to, like, a T. I mean, you can defend the Democratic Party to an extent, but gets to a point where they're just like, buddy, you're literally just defending badness. Like, he's literally like, I mean, come on. Bernie obviously doesn't have, like, a head in the party. He obviously doesn't have the base down, because if he couldn't win in a not divided field, how could he be the majority of the party? It's like, buddy, like 80% of the party supports Medicare for all. Like, seriously, he has like all the bases down. Like young people, people of color, working folks. Like he had those bases down during the primary. It was like the suburbanites and like older black people that were like the last minute swingers. That was what was holding Bernie back. He couldn't get the wine moms. He tried to appeal to the wine moms, but last minute coalition made the wine moms go, hey, we gotta go Joe. We gotta defeat Donald Trump. He wasn't even a Bernie supporter in the primary. He apparently said like Warren and Mayor Pete were his choices. No social democrat would be supporting Mayor Pete at the very least during a primary when the social democratic candidate is right over there. That's why I don't necessarily buy him being a social democrat, at least to a degree. Again, to a degree. Maybe, like, I mean, it's like social liberalism is probably where he would more likely lie. Like, I mean, and he's even adherent, like, if he were a social democrat, like, why would he explicitly hate Kyle Kulinski? Him, Kyle, and Hassan were like buddies. Now he really hates them because they adhere to leftism. Like, there's one clip that, like, really bothers me about, like, him. It was during his one where he, like, his video aptly titled, I Hate Kyle Kulinski, where he attacked Kyle Kulinski's dead father.
My dad didn't have health insurance, so he went to the chiropractor instead of the doctor for back pain? I'm sorry, bro. Sounds like your dad was just a dumb fuck. I don't think this had anything to do with Medicare for all, bro. What the fuck? Chiropractors aren't fucking free. That shit... Well, hold on. I might be talking my ass right now. Maybe it's different in some states. Generally, going to chiropractors is pretty expensive, though. Or is that different in some places? Does anybody know that?
I do. In general, chiropractic services range from approximately $100 to $200 per session, though initial consultations with a chiropractor might be provided at no cost, while a typical therapy session costs around $65 on average. Meanwhile, surgeries can cost thousands of dollars, and you might not even have gotten the right surgery at the right time. What would you rather do if you were suffering from back pain? Pay $100 for some possible comfort, or pay thousands of dollars for possible comfort? And then there's this other aspect where he tries to, like, get Kyle with this.
Serious? So my father, he smoked heavily his whole life. He died at the age of 56, okay, from lung cancer. And the cancer metastasized all over the place. Now, he's one of those guys who has this belief system that I totally disagree with. I always have. The idea that you never go to a doctor. Okay, you don't trust doctors, you never go to doctors, yada, yada. Well, that was problem number one.
I hate online politics, dude. I hate all of these cancerous fucks, man. Jesus Christ, if there's one thing he inherits from his dad, I fucking pray to God. What a worthless fucking slimy fucking Weasley rat-faced fucking snake piece of shit. Oh my God, dude. Fuck, I'm done. Okay, we're done with this video. I hate this guy. God, he's such a fucking sleazeball fuck.
Geez, Steven, I wonder why, for any possible reason, people would distrust doctors and not want to go there as often. Could it possibly be because of the price gouging they face, either by health insurance officials or by doctors themselves if they don't have health insurance? Do you think maybe that could possibly be the reason why people don't like going to doctors and don't trust them? I guess we'll never know. And then during that, he also defended Joe Biden for, like, trying to veto Medicare for all. Like, oh no, that's perfectly valid. No, we spend, like, a shit ton of money on healthcare already. Medicare for all would lower the costs, not raise costs, for both people and for the country. Literally, there was a group that set out to try and prove Medicare for all would make costs go up, but they actually proved we would spend less. Yeah, pretty much all I gotta say on him. There are better streamers out there. Vosh and even Xanderhall are better than him, because they actually somewhat make sense, and don't hate the left every 3 minutes. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or join my Discord, or check out my articles in the Independent Political Report.